You're not here to learn something new. You're here to figure out why what you already know isn't working. You're looking for something that finally clicks. And that's what I want to give you here today because you've probably practiced the law of assumption, maybe even for years. Maybe you can recite Neville Goddard's teachings word for word. You know exactly what to say, when to say it, how it's supposed to feel. And the physical, tangible changes are minimal at best. So today we're going to dissect what Neville said, and then we're going to expand on it with modern neuroscience because he was right. But we've learned a lot about how the brain works in the last 60 years, actually in the last 20 years. And if we combine that with what he taught, we can skyrocket your results. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I've told 100 clients that have been in this exact same position. And it might sound a little bit harsh for 10 seconds, but then it's freeing. The idea is correct, but the technique is what has been off. And by the end of this video, I'm going to give you one adjustment that turns this from an affirmation practice that feels great for 5 minutes to something that actually impacts and moves your life. Here's the adjustment right up front, because I don't believe in making you wait 15 minutes for the one thing that you came here for. Neville Goddard said, assume the feeling, and that is correct, but you cannot just assume the new feeling and expect it to stick. There's a step that comes before that. We have to back up first and name the old belief in the same emotional state that it was created in, and then we replace it. If we skip that step, we're not editing anything. We're painting over a wall that has a crack in it. It'll hold, it'll look good for a little while, but then that crack's going to come through, or the moisture's going to come through, or whatever, and it's going to look like crap again. Neville's core teaching was simple on the surface. He said, assume the feelings of your wish fulfilled. So most of us hear that. We repeat an affirmation, we repeat a sentence in the mirror a few times. Maybe we even muster up something of a feeling, and then we wonder why nothing actually changes. And here's the reason why. Assuming a feeling is not an intellectual decision. It's a physiological state. And physiological states do not just rearrange themselves because you tried. Physiological states do not just happen because you said the right words. So Neville was actually pointing to something very specific here, and it's more precise than what a lot of us give him credit for. He talked about this window that matters right before sleep or right after you wake up. The moment that your critical firewall, the firewall of your mind, hasn't fully come online yet. And that wasn't just mysticism. It was something that he couldn't quite explain with modern science, and today we can. Today we can say that the reason why he suggested using those two time frames, right before you wake up and right before you go to sleep, is because that filtering mind has not clocked in for the day yet. That's when the gatekeeper of your unconscious mind is still on their coffee break, and we have a chance to be able to reprogram the old beliefs. So let me talk for a second about why naming the old belief is not an option. In fact, it's the entire secret of making this work. There's research out of McGill University by Karam Nader on something called memory reconsolidation. The condensed version is this. When we retrieve an old memory, when we remember something, when we bring it into mind, and if we've associated the same emotional state. So, for example, if you have a money belief like it's hard to make money, and you kind of feel that tension in your chest. So we're matching the belief, we're accessing the belief with the emotional state. In that moment, it becomes editable. It becomes malleable before it locks back down. Now, if we access the belief and the feeling and we leave it as is, it gets stored back into the archive as it was. But when we retrieve it, feel that emotion for just a second and introduce something new, there's a window there where we can actually change the old belief. And this is crucial. So when Neville Goddard said, assume the new feeling, neuroscience agrees, but adds that naming and reprogram the old belief first is a better strategy. We've all heard the phrase, neurons that fire together wire together. And that does not mean that if we fire something together enough times, it will rewire the old neural connections. Those old connections are still in place. And simply reaffirming something new, simply firing neurons together with a new belief doesn't outcompete the old belief, because that old belief has been reinforced with feelings for 10, 20, 30 years. And emotion is the currency here. Now, I love logic. I love being analytical. And I know a lot of my followers, if not all of you, we are all very analytical and very logical people. But that is our strength, is ours also our weakness, because emotion is the currency that the unconscious mind understands. And repetition without the emotion is just noise. So here's what's actually happening when the law of assumption works. We retrieve the old belief first. Money is hard for people like me. And we let ourselves feel it for a second in the body. We feel maybe our chest get tight. Maybe it makes you feel like crying. In that same sequence, in that same moment, we introduce a new thought. This is where the affirmation comes in, but maybe it's something that sounds like this. I'm learning how to become abundant, or I'm not that version anymore. The new version of me is wealthy. We bridge the old one with the old feeling with assuming the new, and we let ourselves feel that. And you might even notice that that becomes more empowered. Maybe it feels more hopeful with real emotion. We're not faking it. We're editing the old program. Now, let me give you the technique that you can actually put into practice tonight. Step 1, do this right before you go to sleep. There's way too many of us that right before we go to sleep, we're cruising on TikTok, we're cruising on Facebook, we're looking at the news, trying to slow our minds down, and that's going to sabotage our success. Replace scrolling at nighttime with this strategy. Okay. And I also want to mention too that it's really important that we're taking advantage of these moments, the moment right before we wake up and the moment right before we go to sleep, because our brain waves are already in those theta waves. It's this nice, slow, hypnotic state. We're not going to do this randomly during the day while we're at a stoplight or on our coffee break at work. We're taking advantage of the brain's programming time. The window is the mechanism, so respect that. 15 minutes before you go to sleep, or the 15 minutes as soon as you wake up. Step number 2, recognize and name the old belief out loud in your head first, briefly. Access that old belief. Let yourself feel it for a second. I used to believe easy money wasn't real for people like me. Don't soak in it. Just dip your toes in it. And immediately follow it with a new assumption, not just a flat sentence, a new assumption with real emotion. For something like this, I'm assuming now that opportunity finds me. I'm improving on that. I'm learning how to attract money. I'm unleashing the abundance that I've always had. Feel that, even if it's just for 60 seconds, like it's already true. And then step 4, let it go. Forget about it. Don't marinate on it. Let it go. Don't check your bank account for evidence tomorrow morning. This is you demanding that the portal prove itself before you've even closed it. Now, this is the whole protocol. It's not complicated. It's very specific. And specific is what most manifestation content refuses to give you, because vague is easier. Vague is easier to sell, and it's harder to fail. Now, Neville was on to something real. Obviously, he did not have access to McGill University and their memory reconsolidation research. He was a brilliant man. He was a brilliant observer of his own inner life and the lives of other people. And our job, 100 years later, 80 years later, is to refine his work and add in the neuroscience that he didn't have access to. Our job is to take what he knew and build on it. He actually wasn't telling people to stand in the mirror and repeat positive words at themselves. That's kind of like our modern day affirmation culture. And it's a shame, actually, because that's not what he taught. What he was actually teaching was a shift in our assumed identity in the state that we felt. The words were never really the point. The words were just the vehicle for the emotional state. And most of us have been waxing the car and leaving the engine untouched. And this is why affirmations fail for so many people. It's the same reason that diets fail. It's the same reason New Year's resolutions fail. You cannot talk your way into an emotional state if you have not allowed yourself to fully access it. So you have to get the feeling first and the words follow, not the other way around. The words do not induce the emotion. The emotion comes first. You cannot talk your way into a feeling that you haven't actually felt. So here's what I want you to do tonight, not someday. Don't put this off. Tonight, before you fall asleep. Pick one belief that you know is ruining your financial life. Pick the belief that is running on autopilot, something that you've said so many times it doesn't even register as a belief, it's just a fact. Something like there's never enough, or it's always just out of reach. Name it. And then feel it. Let it suck for a minute. Feel it. Then replace it. Replace it with, but I'm learning a new way. I'm learning to attract money. Add real emotion in those 2 brief windows, first thing in the morning and right before you go to sleep at night. This does not require blind faith. Faith was never the requirement. Precision was the requirement. So if this clicked something for you, please subscribe, because this kind of pattern we're going to keep taking apart piece by piece every single week. And I'd like to know in the comments, what's the old belief that you're naming tonight? Comment on it. I read every single one of the comments, and I promise you, you're probably not the only one that's carrying the same belief. Reality responds to your consciousness. And now you know that is not just a pretty phase, that's the neuroscience.